Starting next month, I'm moving to my family home with him. I could hear mocking laughter over the phone. I let out a deep sigh. Just because we bought a new house, they think they can just move in? How much more condescending can they get? Now I won't have to do any housework. Once I'm there, I'll make sure you do a lot for me. With that, Catherine hung up the phone. I looked over at Bob sitting next to me. He had an angry expression on his face. If she wants it that way, just let her have it. Yeah, you're right. We decided to let her have her way if she wanted it that badly. On the moving day, I was enjoying a rare date with Bob. Checking my cell, Catherine had called me like the devil 27 times. Oh, she must have found out. With that thought, I smirked and Bob noticed and smiled back. Then, right on cue, the phone rang, and I answered. Hey! What the hell is this? Hearing her panicked voice, we both laughed out loud. My name is Nancy Smith, a 49-year-old working mom. I have a daughter named Emily. Soon after Emily was born, I found out my husband at the time was cheating, and we divorced. Since then, I've been working hard to raise Emily by myself as a single mother. You're doing great at work. But don't push yourself too hard. That's when Bob, my coworker, reached out to me. He always helped me with my work and brought me things like coffee. He was always considerate and looking out for me. Why are you so kind to me? Well, to be honest, I'm in the same boat with you. It turns out, he's also a single father raising a daughter. Moreover, he too had been cheated on by his wife, who ended up leaving their daughter behind when she left. Seeing our similar circumstances, he took special care of me. Realizing we were both in the same situation brought us closer in no time. I'm Catherine Smith. Nice to meet you. I'm Emily. Emily, you're adorable. When we introduced our kids, they instantly became friends. At the time, Catherine, who was 9, kept saying how cute 5-year-old Emily was, and Emily looked up to Catherine. Catherine keeps saying she wants to live with her new sister and a new mom soon. Wait, does that mean? Yes. Will you marry me? With a little push from our kids, we got remarried. The two girls became as close as real sisters, and we believed we were building a warm and loving home. At least, that's what I believed. Our family was harmonious at first. However, things started to strain when Catherine entered middle school. The once kind Catherine started to live recklessly. She would hang out without studying. Despite being in middle school, there were times she would come home later than us after work. Catherine, where have you been? None of your business. No matter how many times we asked or scolded, nothing changed, and she stubbornly refused to tell us where she went. Moreover, she began to blatantly disregard Emily. You'll probably fail your exams and lead a miserable life. After all, you're her daughter. Catherine, what are you saying? To make matters worse, Catherine began stealing Emily's belongings. Among them was a cherished pendant Emily received from my late mother, and I reprimanded Catherine. I just borrowed it. It's probably cheap anyway. Catherine, listen. You're not even my real mom. Those words pierced me to the core. Catherine, enough is enough. Instead of me, Bob reprimanded Catherine. Even after that, Catherine kept on harassing Emily, but Emily seemed unfazed. I have things I want to achieve, so I'm prioritizing my studies right now. I don't let what Catherine does bother me too much. Emily began to have dreams and started to study hard. Being a girl who didn't get too attached to material things, she seemed okay even when Catherine took her belongings. Sure, when the pendant was taken, Emily looked like she was about to cry, but she forgave Catherine once it was returned. That being said, it felt like it was only a matter of time before the two clashed. Bob and I were at a loss, not knowing how to navigate this precarious situation. I wonder if I did something wrong. Even if it's her rebellious phase, did I upset her somehow? No, Nancy, you've done nothing wrong. In fact, I'm grateful to you. You treat Catherine just like you treat Emily. So, don't worry about it. We talked almost every night, but Catherine's attitude remained unchanged. We didn't want to think our remarriage had been too early. We constantly racked our brains, trying to figure out a solution. Unbeknownst to us, our daughter was watching our struggles. Time passed, and while Catherine continued her carefree college life, Emily, now in high school, juggled work and studies, considering her job as another form of education. Although the two sisters were polar opposites, Bob and I treated them equally. I always treated Catherine as my own daughter, but she remained cold towards me. Catherine, how's college going? It's none of your business. Don't act all chummy. Just give me money. We did allow Catherine to live on her own near her college. But she frequently came home, always demanding money whenever she did. Lately, there were rumors that she was seeing multiple men. What are you doing? One day, I heard Emily shout. Emily, who rarely raised her voice, made me rush over in concern. What happened? There stood Emily, clutching her bank card, and Catherine with an annoyed look. Catherine tried to steal my bank card. Apparently, when Emily came home from her job, Catherine was in Emily's room with a bank card that was supposed to be locked in a drawer. She immediately raised her voice and took back her bank card. That was the earnings Emily had deposited in the bank for her future. The fact that Catherine tried to take such money is what angered Emily and caused her to shout. Catherine, do you realize what you've done? Quit acting like you're my mom. Who do you think you are? A voice I had never heard before, deep and furious. I turned to see Bob, his face red with anger. Get out! Dad! I'll pay for your living expenses and college tuition. But never show your face here again. Upon hearing Bob's words, Catherine left. Afterward, she dropped out of college and disappeared. This incident deeply saddened Bob. I might have been too harsh. I was already feeling guilty for the trouble she caused Nancy and Emily, but the thought of her trying to steal money made me lose my temper. It's okay. She's strong and can survive anywhere. I believe that. I said, trying to comfort him, but I too was worried. I just prayed that she was okay. All I could do was pray for her well-being and tried to comfort Bob. Years later, Emily became independent, and Bob and I were enjoying our life together. Hey, Nancy. About that idea we discussed. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. At that time, we were planning to buy a new house. We had been living in Bob's family home, which was quite old and inconvenient. Though it was close to the elementary school Emily attended, it was far from the train station, and we needed a car to go to the supermarket. So, we decided to buy a new place. While looking at potential houses. Wait, aren't you the woman who acts like my mom? Huh? No way, Catherine! We ran into Catherine. She had dyed her hair bright red and was wearing heavy makeup. She was decked out in flashy jewelry, giving a blinging impression. However, the clothes she wore had good taste and suited her. Next to her was a man, laughing with a carefree attitude. What? You know Catherine? Yeah, I told you, didn't I? About the lady who acts like she's my mom without being related by blood. At Catherine's explanation, the man showed an unpleasant smirk. I couldn't help but frown. Either not noticing or not caring about my discomfort, the two flashed mocking smiles our way. Oh, this is my boyfriend, Jacob. Hey there. Yeah. I responded curtly, almost involuntarily. I heard Jacob mutter under his breath, she's uptight. Must be because she's an old lady. You just came out of the real estate office, right? Yes. Good to see you're doing well. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. Saying that, I chose to distance myself from Catherine and her boyfriend. Feeling the weight of Catherine's intense gaze on my back as I walked away. A few days after that encounter, we finally purchased our new home. It was closer to work and within walking distance to the supermarket. We were excitedly preparing for the move. Then, I got a call from Catherine. It's been a while. I heard you bought a new house. You're getting ahead of yourself, aren't ya? Catherine rambled on, dominating the conversation. Feeling Bob's gaze on me, I put her on speakerphone. After listening to her for a while, she suddenly burst into laughter and said something unexpected. Next month, Jacob and I are gonna move into the family home. Her laughter over the phone sounded mocking. I sighed deeply. Moving in right after we bought our new place. Just how much did she look down on us? Now I don't have to do housework. When I get there, I'm gonna make you work hard. With that, Catherine hung up. I glanced over at Bob sitting beside me. He had a furious look on his face. If she wants it that way, let her have it. Yeah, you're right. If that's what she really wants, we thought, we'll let her have her way. And then, on the moving day, Bob and I were enjoying a long overdue date. I casually checked my phone and found out Catherine had called me like the devil, 27 times. Guess she found out. Chuckling at the thought, Bob noticed and smiled too. Just then, the phone rang again, and I answered. What's the meaning of this? At that flustered voice, we all burst out laughing. Why are you laughing? Why is Matthew there? Well, Matthew is living with Emily now. The reason for Catherine's panic? Matthew, Emily's fiancé and Catherine's ex-boyfriend, was waiting outside the new house. Moreover, Matthew is also the elder brother of Catherine's current boyfriend, Jacob. Initially, Catherine dated Matthew. But when Jacob started hitting on Catherine, she quickly switched over, apparently defaulting on a debt she owed Matthew. So, while looking for Catherine's family members, Matthew made contact with Emily. They bonded over the trouble they'd both had with Catherine, and their relationship quickly evolved into an engagement. This time, since my parents, who always side with my younger brother and criticize me, tell me things like you're so narrow-minded or you're the older brother, you should give in, I would rather be with Emily's family than my family. So, with the intent of a fresh start, he's planning to become a part of Emily's family. When he came over to give his greetings and the topic of the new house came up, Emily and Matthew offered to cover half the costs if we'd allow them to live with us, and we agreed. With their financial contribution, we were able to buy a two-family home. Just after that, Catherine called, so we informed Emily and Matthew. And that's why they were there waiting. Hello? Mom? Then I heard Emily's voice coming from Catherine's end of the line. Apparently, Matthew quickly caught Jacob, but Catherine was trying to run and contact me when she was caught by Emily. We're fine over here. Enjoy your date with Dad. Yes, thank you. Hey! If you're a mother, help me! Just as I was about to hang up, I heard Catherine yelling. I let out a sigh. Why not ask your real mom instead of this pretend mom act? What? And then, I decisively ended the call. In truth, Catherine's attitude was a result of her mother's influence. Catherine's mother, Bob's ex-wife, had reached out to her when she was in middle school. It seems she was told a made-up story there. She was told things like, she stole Bob from me, and Emily was conceived when Bob and Nancy had an affair. Bob hadn't shared the true reason for their divorce with Catherine, saying she was too young to understand. So, believing her biological mother's words, Catherine began to despise us. Even if she was deceived by her real mother, it doesn't mean we should forgive her. Yeah, that's right. Helping her here won't be for her benefit. Besides, Emily told us to enjoy ourselves. Right. Let's enjoy a bit more. By the way, we're on a vacation. When we remarried, due to work being so busy and the challenge of traveling with two kids who weren't quite settled yet, we never went on a honeymoon. That's why Emily gifted us this trip. We planned to thoroughly enjoy our time together and then head back to our new home. Even though I was a bit concerned about Catherine, I decided to prioritize our vacation. Welcome back, both of you. Welcome home, Bob and Nancy. We're back. Thanks for taking care of things while we were away. Upon returning from our trip, we were greeted by Emily and Matthew. Catherine and Jacob were nowhere in sight. What happened to those two? Oh, we sent them off. Apparently, Catherine and Jacob were placed in live-in job positions. Catherine was sent to a ranch owned by one of Emily's acquaintances, and Jacob to a factory owned by one of their relatives. That relative apparently didn't think too highly of families that favored Jacob, but they gladly agreed to take him in this time. He told me he's gonna whip some sense into him, Matthew said with a bright smile. I couldn't help but laugh along, seeing his reaction. Why did you send Catherine to a ranch? Well, she always used to say she'd never want to work on a farm, sweating in overalls and dealing with cows. So, I thought I'd let her experience just how wonderful that kind of job can be. That ranch, it turns out, belongs to Emily's old part-time work buddy's family. Back in the day, Catherine would deliberately come to their workplace just to tease Emily and even bother her coworkers. As a kind of payback, she got dumped at the ranch. The family of Emily's old coworker is well aware of what Catherine has been up to, so they're keeping a close eye on her and making sure she works hard. We also made sure to punish the root of the problem. The problem, Matthew's family, ran a business and was fairly wealthy. However, apparently, Matthew spread the word about the recent events to various companies and neighbors, causing their reputation in the community to plummet quickly. As a result, their business started failing, forcing a change in leadership. Pressured, his parents apparently fled in the night. On the other hand, Catherine's mother lost her source of income and was pursued by debt collectors, eventually going missing. As a result, Catherine was completely abandoned. Bob and I heard this story while the four of us were having tea. Oh, right. We got some souvenirs. We got something separate for the office, so you guys should enjoy these. Awesome. Thank you. As soon as we brought out the souvenirs, their faces lit up in joy. Seeing their reactions, Bob and I exchanged glances and laughed, thinking how they were becoming quite the pair. How's the business going? It's going well. We're all set to welcome both of you. Actually, right after graduating from college, Emily and Matthew became co-founders and started their own company. Starting a business had been Emily's dream for a long time, and she had been saving up for it. When she began dating Matthew, who also wanted to start a similar company, they decided to venture together. And now, Bob and I have been recruited to start working there next week. I intend to fully utilize all the experience I've gained over the years. A little while after the company settled down, Emily and Matthew decided to get married. Congratulations, Emily. Emily, you look stunning. Thanks, both of you. On the wedding day, most of the invited guests were familiar with the couple's struggles, and everyone was showering them with blessings. Among them were the old co-workers and their families from Emily's part-time job. Isn't it getting noisy? Oh dear, I wonder what's happening. In the midst of this festive atmosphere, I noticed a commotion near the entrance. As Bob and I approached, Bring out those two! You're my father, you should help me! Catherine shouted. It seems that the ranch owners who were supervising Catherine had loosened their guarding since they attended the wedding. She had secretly followed them and found out about the wedding venue. As Catherine, who had been making a fuss, noticed us, she approached with a fierce and angry look on her face. Bring them out! You're my father, you should help me! But Bob gave her a cold stare. With a look from Bob that she had never seen before, Catherine was momentarily silenced. You were once my daughter. What do you mean were? I still am. But I can't forgive what you did to another daughter and wife I deeply love. And, though I intended to keep this to myself, I've always disliked how much you remind me of her deep down. What? Bob's words stunned Catherine. I had always been Bob's confidant regarding this matter. It seems that when Bob broke up with Catherine's mother, there was a huge fallout. On top of that, he apparently faced some very harsh words. She's my daughter, but every time I see Catherine, I'm reminded of her, even to the point of feeling hatred. Bob had confided in me. He had hidden this for so long because he was her father. I tried numerous times to reset our relationship. I've always tried to think of your future and interacted with you accordingly. But you never listened. Frankly, I've been disappointed in you. Now, I never want to see your face again." Catherine seemed at a loss for words, just staring at Bob. She probably thought somewhere deep down that Bob would never abandon her. That's how wrong my sister was. Just then, Emily and Matthew came over. Catherine shot them a dirty look, but Emily and Matthew seemed completely unfazed. "We ignored what you did to us for a while because it wasn't worth our time, but honestly, you were so annoying. And after you caused trouble at our part-time job, we decided we're not gonna let it slide anymore. I feel the same way. Even if my parents pushed us to date, I was hurt when I was betrayed. Thanks to that, I met Emily. That's the only thing I'm grateful for." Hearing their words, Catherine opened her mouth to retort, then abruptly shut it. Under normal circumstances, she might have had some complaints. But the rejection from Bob must have deeply affected her. She seemed to be struggling to find words. "Let's go back, everyone. We really want you all to join the celebratio." As if Catherine was never there, they moved on with cheerful faces, leading the way back to the venue. Before I followed Bob's lead to return, I turned back to look at Catherine. "I truly loved you as a daughter. But it's impossible now." After saying that, Bob and I left the scene. Later on, Catherine was escorted out by the security guards. "Do you think I was too harsh?" Bob asked. "Not at all. Parents are human too," I reassured. "Right. Now, let's celebrate Emily and Matthew's marriage?" Bob nodded in agreement. And then, to celebrate Emily and Matthew's wedding, we walked forward with our heads held high. Since then, we've been living in a duplex with Emily and Matthew. Recently, we found out Emily is pregnant. Currently, our whole family is supporting Emily. "Is it a girl? Or a boy?" Bob is already so excited about the upcoming grandchild, buying this and that, and it's leaving us all shaking our heads in disbelief. I wonder if he'll faint from happiness once the baby is born. "Oh, by the way, the money I lent out came back safely." According to Matthew, their debts have been fully paid off. However, it turns out they both had caused trouble elsewhere, so they're gonna be working their tails off for a while. Especially Catherine, who, having run away once, is now being worked to the bone to ensure she doesn't muster the energy to escape again. We likely won't see her face around us anymore. By the way, Matthew's parents, who had fled in the night, were caught by debt collectors, and Catherine's mother got arrested for marriage fraud. Finally, that's settled. Yeah, it sure is. With all the troublemakers gone, we genuinely laughed. Fast forward a few years. Since then, Emily gave birth to vibrant twins. They're both so lively, always getting into mischief. Then, how about we take them to an amusement park next time? They'd love that. While Bob played with the twins, we planned the outing. Our relationship with the couple remains cordial. We believe we're maintaining a perfect distance without being too intrusive. It's okay to have fun, but don't overdo it and hurt yourself, okay? I'll be fine, don't worry. If you wear yourself out, you can stay at home by yourself, Dad. Oh, give me a break, Bob exclaimed, making everyone laugh. The twins keep us on our toes daily, and it's a whirlwind. But being kept on our toes like this doesn't bother me at all. If she had been a bit more attentive to those around her, maybe she could have joined us in this happiness. Nancy, promise you'll always be with me. Of course, I will. Let's all continue to live in harmony as a family. Of course, we won't be a burden just because we're family and we'll always listen to each other.
I had reached my limit in the mentally exhausting days of being pressured by my mother-in-law. I can't take it anymore. I want to go back to my parents' house. When I said that, my husband approached me with a cold expression.
Well then, let's get a divorce. There's no point in supporting someone like you.
What on earth is he saying? After that, both my mother-in-law and husband fell into a complete breakdown. My name is Blair. I'm 35 years old and work in an advertising agency. I had been so focused on my work that I hadn't had any opportunities to meet someone. Blair, you're already 30. Have you thought about getting married? Yeah, but I'm not really interested in that kind of thing. At that time, my parents gently urged me to consider marriage. However, I purposely avoided having any interest in marriage back then. I lacked confidence in myself when it came to romance. In fact, I had become quite timid when it came to romance. I was afraid that even if I desperately tried to find a boyfriend, we would break up before reaching marriage. I didn't want to be filled with expectations and then be betrayed. Just the thought of it made my heart ache. I had been through a terrible breakup with a boyfriend in the past. I thought he cared for me, but it turned out he was cheating on me with multiple women. When I confronted him about why he would cheat, he made cruel remarks.
If you eat French cuisine and high-end steaks every day, won't you get tired of it? Don't you ever feel like having something light and subtly flavored?
Huh? What are you talking about?
It's normal to occasionally want to have fun with other women. That's what I mean.
He said that and mocked me. This incident became the catalyst for my fear of love, and I closed my heart off to men. I hadn't told my parents about this, but somehow they seemed to understand that I was afraid of romance. In reality, I wanted to have a proper relationship, get married, and make my parents happy. But I couldn't take that first step easily. Amidst all of this, one day, I had a fateful encounter. It happened at my workplace. We've secured a new deal this time. You be in charge of that company, Blair. Upon hearing that from my boss, I went to introduce myself to the new client.
Nice to meet you. I'm Holland, in charge of N Company.
Nice to meet you too. I'm Blair, from S Company. We exchanged business cards. And in that instant, I fell in love at first sight with the man who was my counterpart. Harlan's appearance, atmosphere, and voice were all my liking. From then on, I looked forward to every visit to his office. He always interacted with me with a refreshing smile, and I couldn't help but feel excited. Before I knew it, I found myself smiling and laughing like a fool. But of course, I still managed to handle my work perfectly.
Blair, you're really capable at your job. There's a lot I can learn from you.
No, that's not true at all.
Oh, come on. You don't have to be so modest. By the way, if you were interested, would you like to have a meal together sometime? Whenever you're free, after things settle down with our current project.
Yes, definitely. I naturally accepted his invitation to have a meal together. The old me would never have done such a thing. Strangely, I felt naturally inclined to accept his dinner invitation. A few days later, we went out for a meal after work. He was very gentlemanly, and the conversation was incredibly enjoyable. While he was serious during work, in private, he had a great sense of humor and was friendly and cheerful. That's why I found myself becoming more and more attracted to him. It had been a long time since I had developed feelings for someone. And from then on, he started inviting me out for meals regularly.
Being with you, Blair, makes me feel very calm.
Oh, is that so? I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. That's why, if you're okay with it, would you like to go on a date with me?
Oh, a date?
I wouldn't force you if you don't wanna.
No way! No. I mean, I'd love to. Me too. I wanna go out with you, Holland.
Really? Great! Well, first, how about an Italian? There's a place I've been curious about.
Yes, let's go there. I was thrilled to be invited by him on a weekend date. I even bought new clothes for the occasion after a long time. With determination, I embarked on a date with Harlan.
That outfit looks good on you. It suits you very well.
Oh, thank you very much. He praised the new clothes I bought, and I thought he was a caring and kind person. We went on several dates and eventually became a couple. I hadn't had a boyfriend for many years, so I had some anxieties. But the desire to be in a relationship with him was stronger. He always took the lead. I felt that I wanted to be with him forever. Then, 2 years after we started dating, he proposed to me. Until now, I wasn't interested in marriage or anything like that.
But when I met you, Blair, I realized I wanted to get married for the first time. So, will you marry me, Blair?
Saying that, he handed me the ring. My answer had already been decided. Yes, yes. Of course I'll marry you. And so, we decided to get married. When we informed our parents about the decision to get married, they were overjoyed. Seeing my mother shedding tears of happiness, I felt a twinge of regret for causing her so much worry. I was glad that I could fulfill my duty as a daughter by getting married. We then went to meet each other's parents, and my parents were very fond of Harlan. He is such a refreshing and well-mannered person.
Yes, it seems like he's working hard in his job too. We can entrust Blair to him with peace of mind.
I was happy that both of my parents accepted him. We successfully completed the greetings at my in-laws, and we decided to have a wedding ceremony. Many friends and co-workers attended the wedding and celebrated joyously. I received words of blessing from everyone and experienced unparalleled happiness. After that, we went on our honeymoon to Europe, and our married life as husband and wife began. I continued working even after getting married. Therefore, we shared the household chores. On days with overtime, we cooperated and took turns cooking and cleaning. My husband had lived alone for a long time, so he could manage to cook to some extent. Even though it was mostly simple pasta, I was grateful that he made it. On our days off, since we both enjoyed visiting cafes, we would search for new cafes we hadn't been to and go together. We also went to the beach as part of a drive and had a great time together. Our newlywed life was very happy in that way. I, who was timid in love, never imagined I could have such a happy married life. So I was truly delighted. We will continue to create joyful memories together in the future. We want to have kids too. I was thinking like that. So I never dreamed that such hellish days would come after that. 3 years have passed since we started our happy married life together. We still had a great relationship and were happy. In the midst of that, one day, an unexpected event occurred.
Huh? Dad collapsed?
It was a sudden message from my mother-in-law. She said that my father-in-law suddenly collapsed at home and was taken to the hospital by an ambulance. We immediately headed to the hospital. The cause seemed to be a heart attack. He underwent emergency treatment, but my father-in-law passed away.
Why did you leave me behind?
My mother-in-law, seeing my father-in-law sleeping in the hospital room, broke down in tears. Both my husband and I were deeply saddened by his death. But my mother-in-law's despair was unbearable to witness. Even during the funeral, she was engulfed in sorrow. It seemed like my husband had some thoughts as he observed her state. After the funeral, my husband approached me and said something like this.
Leaving mom alone is a concern. I'm thinking of living together in my parents' house.
Huh? Living together?
Yeah. Seeing Mom's despair worries me. What do you think?
Harlan, to be honest, I wasn't very enthusiastic about living together. I thought about whether it was the right thing to do for the sake of my husband. Okay, let's do it.
Thank you, Blair. I'll contact Mom right away.
My husband said that and called his mother, deciding to move to his parents' house. My mother-in-law, feeling lonely being alone, quickly accepted the idea of living together. And so, our cohabitation with my mother-in-law began. Even though we started living together, my mother-in-law still carried the heavy burden of grief from losing her husband, and she wasn't very energetic. So my husband and I shared the household chores as much as possible, trying to lessen her load. The house was bigger than our previous one, so it took a bit more time, but it wasn't a major issue. However, around 6 months, my mother-in-law's attitude started to change.
Hey, Blair? Why are you letting Harlan do the household chores?
Oh, well, since we both work, we've always shared the household chores.
What are you saying? The wife should do that kind of thing.
What?
And what do you mean by saying you've always shared the chores? Have you been making him do the chores all along? This is unacceptable.
My mother-in-law started shouting like that.
From now on, I absolutely won't let Harlan do the household chores. You will do everything. You got that?
What? After that, all the household chores ended up being my responsibility. Whenever my husband tried to help, my mother-in-law would say,
Harlan, you don't need to do them.
She tried to prevent my husband from doing any household chores at all. I ended up struggling with all the housework on my own every day. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law seemed to be getting more energetic day by day. In proportion to that, she became more strict and critical towards me.
What's this?
This dish doesn't taste good at all. Did you always feed my son with such terrible food? Unbelievable. My mother-in-law constantly complained about my housework like that. And my husband didn't intervene to stop her bad-mouthing me. Hey, why don't you stand up for me?
Isn't it a sign that Mom is feeling better? Let her say a few things. She's grieving for losing Dad, you know.
It's a good thing that she is feeling better. But logically, it's not right. I have no reason to endure complaints and bad-mouthing from her. But her insults towards me just never stopped. She also put pressures on me, asking when we would have her grandchildren, or when I would quit my job. The burden of chores increased, and I was under stress from my mother-in-law, both mentally and physically. And in the midst of all that, an incident occurred that made me suspect my husband's infidelity. I learned about it from a colleague. Isn't this Harlan? The colleague, who was on a trip to a local tourist spot, witnessed Harlan walking with an unfamiliar woman there. Harlan had said he was on a business trip that day and wasn't at home. When I looked at the photos sent by my colleague, there was no doubt it was Harlan. Perhaps she was someone he was traveling with on a business trip. Or maybe... But the casual clothes they were wearing and the way they walked arm in arm left no room for doubt. It was clearly not related to work. I felt an overwhelming sense of despair. My husband was cheating on me. He had betrayed me. So this is why he didn't stand up for me against my difficult mother-in-law. I couldn't live together with him anymore. I decided to hire a private investigator. I decided to gather evidence of my husband's affair. The evidence photos quickly piled up, and preparations for divorce proceeded rapidly. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law's verbal abuse towards me continued, or rather, it got even worse. My husband still didn't do anything to stop it. He simply had no interest in me. I guess he was too preoccupied with his affair partner. Amidst busy work and household chores, I managed to find some time and finally completed the preparations for divorce with the help of a lawyer. Every day I was mentally cornered by my mother-in-law, and I had reached my limit. One day I called my husband and said, "I can't take it anymore. Please let me go back to my parents' house. Your mother's attitude towards me is just too terrible." Upon hearing this, my husband responded with a cold expression.
If that's what you want, then let's get a divorce. There's no point in supporting someone like you. I've been frustrated, with the fact that I have very little money to use.
I couldn't understand what he was saying. I earn my own money, just like him. My salary is not any less than his. Furthermore, I do all the household chores. In an instant, my remaining love for my husband vanished. Well, there was no other choice but to divorce, especially considering his affair. Fine, let's get a divorce. My husband was surprised by how readily I agreed to divorce. There was no reason to hesitate anymore. The following week, I immediately began the divorce proceedings. I started packing my belongings to return to my parents' house. That's when my mother-in-law said,
Did you decide to get a divorce by any chance? I always thought that a woman like you
wasn't a match for Harlan. She continued to belittle me, even now. And my husband joined in and laughing alone.
Yeah, you're right, Mom. I'm glad that the divorce is happening.
Ignoring the two of them as they laughed, I left my in-law's house. Afterward, both my mother-in-law and husband experienced a rapid downfall. I immediately sent proof of delivery to my husband's workplace through my lawyer. The contents, of course, included a demand for compensation for the affair. I also claimed compensation for the mental anguish caused by the constant harassment from my mother-in-law. As a result, everyone at my husband's workplace came to know about it. Career advancement is out of the question. My husband will likely be demoted or fired. As for the affair partner, she couldn't bear the cold stares from her surroundings and voluntarily resigned. And it seems that my ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband have the worst relationship imaginable.
It's because of you, Mom, that I have to pay a large amount of compensation. What did you say?
It's because you had an affair. It seems that my ex-husband blamed my ex-mother-in-law, and they cut ties with each other. Furthermore, my ex-mother-in-law's harassment of me became known among the neighbors, and she became isolated, spending her days in loneliness. On the other hand, I have been living with my parents and working hard on my job. In the summer, I decided to move out of my parents' house and purchase a new home. With a substantial amount of compensation and my diligent work, I recently received a promotion. I want to continue working hard and earning a living. I'm excited about the new house, and I'm thinking of finding new hobbies and enriching my life. From now on, I will live for myself and focus on my own happiness.